Just need to going in, please.
Send them round to the
We are good for students.
What I'm going to have on this computer, right, just so you're aware as well, this computer is going to have the questions open, and the whole slide is a widescreen, so you guys can see the questions as and when. But it is going to be.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 5th and final day of Confetti's Industry Week 2020. Noise, please. Thank you, thank you. There we go. Enthusiasm in the room. That's what we need. Thank you very much. Obviously, today we're very privileged to be joined by Steve, who's come across to us from Cloud Imperium. Give Steve a hello. Obviously, I know that there's a number of you that are joining us on Zoom. Please do make sure that you are using the chat functionality. I know that Kyle will be picking up your questions and you'll be able to pop them through towards the end of today's session. Steve is going to talk to you about his journey through the games industry, his various roles that he's had, his positions, and what he does on his day-to-day as well. Obviously, it's a perfect opportunity as well to ask those questions that you're curious about, how you could potentially get those all-important job roles as well. We would like to always encourage you to use the hashtags that we have set up for Industry Week, so hashtag IW22 on Twitter and Instagram. We are still running the £50 Amazon gift voucher competition, so obviously feel free to get involved with that. If we do have a fire in the building, we're not expecting one to take place or anything like that, but the fire assembly point is, of course, out on Beck Street, and us as the teaching staff will direct you into those places. Obviously, if you are at home, you're all good, so don't worry about that. But I don't want to carry on, steal all Steve's thunder, otherwise we literally would stand here and talk about Jimmy Garner for the whole duration of this session. I'm sure none of you want to go through that, so I'd like to now hand over to Steve. Round of applause there.
Oh, no. Yeah, there will be no fire because I don't do pyrotechnics. It's a pleasure to be here to see everyone. I was in your shoes. Let's not think about how long ago it was because it makes me feel old. But yeah, I just wanted to show you briefly, as much as I can, my journey, but it's not really about me as much as it's about you guys. So I want to try and get the 3 pillars of how to get into the industry from my experience and question and answers. I've got some loot, so ask a question, get some loot. Nothing special, but hey, I also want that £15 Amazon gift card, so get hashtagging. I'll be in competition. Bridging the gap. So that's from studying in the games industry, studying to getting in the games industry. So we'll just press ahead. So I started in a BTEC, game development. A lot of people, I think, are in the similar kind of courses here. And that's where the dish pleasure of meeting Kyle on that side of things. So, went through there, got a degree, Bolton University as well. Got my first job at Sony, worked at CEX, you'll see why later on in time. TT Fusion, TT again, Ubisoft, that was pretty cool. Then I had I'd say the pleasure of teaching this qualification for people as well, so almost like giving back and trying to provide a bit more from my experience of what I wanted to see as a student myself, what I didn't have on the college courses. Then I went back into the industry, then I went teaching again, and then, every time you get out, they pull you back in. So that's me back in there. I'll just kind of show you more on the job roles. So when I was at Sony, there was a Signosis building. That was like where they worked on some of the old school games as well. And so I was quite bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Walked in there, we didn't have a computer. Considering it's like 2011. So we were reporting bugs via paper. Our lead would be putting it in. And what we would be doing is mainly testing submission candidates. So any other third-party studio would submit their game to Sony to test to see if it's any good. And if not, they get knocked back with some serious game-breaking issues that they found with their QA team. And then the poor guys on certain screens and a pen and paper. So I did that for about a few months, as you can see. A lot of term contracts in QA, but you just got to hustle. You got to stay in the game. Went to CEX in between there in Liverpool. There's worse jobs to have, but there's also better ones to have. Got a job at TT working Lego Batman 2. I had my DC nerd hat on as well, which was like, no, Martian Manhunter doesn't fire laser out of his chest. Things like that. So even helped out with the licensing and understanding what it's like to test a game that has a build that keeps coming through on that side of things. And then with that, the contract was running low. I learned a lesson from Sony, which was to be a bit more prepared. So what I did was, I asked my lead. I know a project's ramping up on the other studio, so can I move over there? And my boss turned to me and went, yeah. I was bricking it. I was like, I've asked something, I've spoken something into the ether almost. And he was like, yeah. And something that I'll come to repeat to everyone, the worst answer you can mostly get in the industry is no. Shybane's getting out, as I say in Newcastle, so you might as well ask. Moved on to TT Fusion, got more experience, Lego Lord of the Rings, 3DS, the Vita stuff. Then I got to work on nights on the consoles. Yeah, there's a reason why I put the sad face next to nights, and I'll tell you with an Ides of March warning when it comes to NDAs from someone who was on the bad receiving end of it, and I want to warn you guys against stuff. For me, it was actually kind of great because I got responsibility. I could actually look after people. A lot of people get drunk with power in the industry, so it's one of these things of making sure that if you do well, it's your responsibility to send the ladder back down. And then with that TT Fusion Lego project, associate project lead for QA, so I could actually see the game from a bit more higher up perspective of QA, and then knowing where to be more effective for testing. So that's a lot of games in a small amount of, and that's just the hustle. In terms of the small amount of time, it's just the hustle. All temporary contracts, but it looks really good on your CV, especially when you say yes. When you get asked to do something, it's a chore of a job, do it, step up, and then you can be the go-to person for that side of things. So I wanted a bit of a step up and I wanted to work on a new IP, and when this dropped, everyone was losing their minds when they saw the tech demo and stuff like that. So I wanted to test something that wasn't something completely brand new. So I wanted to look at this game. I was invested in it. I saw QA was, I've even called it QC, it was quality control there. So companies, same job, different titles. And you get to work with other studios in terms of like, you were more embedded into departments. I was collaborating with other testers that were respectively embedded to different teams. So there was code, there was people like skills, weapons and stuff like that, different elements of the game. Validation testing as well. So I was having a little bite-sized experience of each parts of the game, but not being as in-depth testing them, because I was going across the board and you'd send like a validation report saying, all of this stuff, there's a few bugs, but nothing game-breaking or complete crap. And then that's one thing you say, nice one, we can keep our eye on all these other features while we polish up other things. Then prioritizing issues, there's a big fire in the build. There's a big fire here. Please extinguish the fire. So that's kind of what we were doing just in terms of prioritizing issues. This is a must fix across the board. And you might find an issue playing the game long term that other people might not when they're focusing on more focused elements of the game. So it's like if you're just playing poker for till the cows come home, or if you'd say went for poker and then opened up one of the AR games, and then all of a sudden you're crossing paths in terms of disciplines within the game, and there's you can have an absolute horrible crash. At least you can do that when it comes to getting specific content for developers. Why did it crash? Should it have gone in the game? So it's one of these where you'll get a build, and then you'll get something from Perforce to put on top of it, which is, this might be risky, let's not commit it fully, and then it go in the game, and then nobody can work for 2 days. So just little things like that. So it's quite a big amount of responsibility, and it was my first time ever like touching Perforce, and I was like, wow, this is what it takes to be in like the AAA side of things when there's more at stake. I got my hand on the editor, which was nice, just to see testing the tools. So it's not just testing games, it's testing the tools that make the games that the developers use. And all of a sudden you start to understand how to use it, which is, I had never really touched their editor, but I had touched Unreal, I had touched Hammer, I had touched Unity, and you realise you teach yourself how to learn to use software, and then the muscle memory will come. And then there's the monitoring the Jira dashboards. So they kind of come in with the scrums, stand-ups in the mornings as well. You'll stand up with the dev team. What's the plan of action for today? Anything precedent that needs to come through? Anything that is main focus for the entire company is something that someone needs to look out for, something that's being committed maybe. And then with that, monitoring the Jira dashboards as well, which is keeping an eye, a top-down level of all the issues that come through, and making sure everyone else can see it. And say there is an issue to do with art, and it's because the art's not coming. Well, there's no point in going through an untextured level going, walls are a bit blank, floor's a bit blank. So's the ceiling. Yeah, because the artists haven't put it in yet, so you wouldn't report it. We had a few of those. So yeah, I taught, I came back, I got pulled back in to use my QA experience to get on the division. So I got out, they pulled me back in. So yeah, it was another challenge, the division, because Watch Dogs, even when you look at the reviews, it wasn't what it could have been. And a lot of that is just trying to balance next gen with current gen. You know, people need to ship games and that side of things. And it was nice for me, at least from my end, to understand what it takes, how to get there, how a game is made from a new IP to where it needs to be. So when I got to the division, they were collaborating with the different studios. It was up in Malmo, massive. The best thing for me was probably running the Eurogamer stuff. I mean, I look like I'm not having a good time in the first two images at the top, but I genuinely did. It was tonight. It was to meet the community, to meet fans, to meet students as well who came in for some advice. So then I would go, all right, brilliant. No worries then. You want to code? Sam, do you want to go speak to someone in the queue? Because the queue was like 3 hours long, some of them. And just trying to keep people engaged and talk to people, giving out free codes, free loot, things like that. It was nice to see. And then also organising play cycles, making sure that people had a taste of the game, but not dip a toe, 5 minutes, done. You know, gameplay loops. You probably heard a lot of that in your course as well. So that was pretty cool. Again, this is what I had to, coming back in, it was creating test plans. What's the most effective way to break the game? Cool, right, now we can look at the art stuff. All right, the shiny doesn't look so shiny. We're talking like game-breaking stuff of merging different mechanics and seeing if you turn the character inside out, which is great to see an animation programmer lose his mind. And you're like, I haven't done anything wrong. He's like, I know, I'm shouting at the code. Like, cool. And then you move away. So it's one of them. It feels like you're the guy who tested the Tower of Cards, or you were the iceberg that sunk the Titanic. You know, quite cool. You know, you can't. It's like a badge of honor sometimes of breaking the unbreakable. The must fix issues. It's similarly from the previous role. This is this is the list of issues. These are the ones that probably need to be fixed as a priority because they're hindering the testers as well as the dev. Working in Perforce, as I say, so it was more focused now. I was working with the skills and the weapons team. So when initial skills or gadgets would get committed into game, there's a lot of pathfinding for, I think it was like the Seeker Mine, and you'd obviously saying, well, because it reads the geometry, you want to make sure you want to test it on top, so when it's ray tracing, it doesn't absolutely break the build. So it's like, let's just test it on top first. Is it safe to commit? Cool, I've done this, this, and this with it. You kind of have to use your noggin to work out the best ways in which it could probably affect stuff. And that's where your design and experience kind of comes in from. It's a university and college side of things. So that was cool. You give them the green light, that goes in. And then when nothing goes wrong, you and the developer are like, yeah, nice one, brilliant. So yeah, Jira dashboard creation and monitoring as well. So just giving people a snapshot of the issues within the game, and the production staff look at it and go, right, what's the most effective ways in which to improve the game by looking at this? And what do we need to fix? What is technically broken but hasn't really, it's still in its infancy development-wise, which is there are already tasks for the developers to finish. And yeah, looking into the backlog and the lock process. So on that side of things, it was people were checking in things really loosely without testing it properly and breaking builds consistently. So we had a Wednesday every week, which was you have to test your stuff, or it has to go through a member of QA, and then they will release your powers to commit into Perforce, into the stream. And all of a sudden, people are like, this sucks. It's like, yeah, it does. You know what would suck less? What? If you tested your stuff. And that just made, it was like a codependent improvement for everyone, where QA understood the frustrations of developers to try and get it tested, but then the testers also frustrated when they can't actually play or test stuff because they're blocked by a mechanic long term. So yeah, I had a great time, genuinely did. I even did what I'm doing now as well, which is coming to speak to students. That Zubi, one of our lecturers there, Kyle, I'm pretty sure that image was like, just point at the screen because you need a marketing picture. And there's me trying to fuse with Krillin, because we probably have a death wish. So yeah, that went. then I moved to Cloud Imperium Games in between trying to teach in between that. CIG, I've been there for 5.5 years now. I've literally like branded up with it. So I came in QA, specialist AI. So when it came to specialism, it's more like focus with for QA, you'd pick your specialism to start with. So AI, very important. One thing I looked at was, what's are the most important things of a next-gen game I wanted to see that I was felt lacking. And on my end, it was AI. Anyone else had like hands up, terrible AI that's completely broken your experience? Almost to a point you can con them. It's like, these guys are stupid. Hang on, I'm just going to sneak around here, that nice one, and then all of a sudden their pathfinding's gone. And it's like you succeed, but not in the experience you want as a player. So when it comes to specialists, you could pick your opportunities, pick what you wanted to focus on. So even at CIG, there's a ship specialist, because the ships are an important part of the game. And to know the ships off the back end, different features, how they operate, how they should fly. No one wants a small fighter that can destroy, cruisers. This isn't Star Wars, unless you're very, very good. Also, like liaising with the different developers as well, working at specific features. So again, similarly to the embedded side of things, but you'd be talking to each other. Flight team talking to the ships team, nice one. And then there's the art team saying, well, we need bigger landing pads because the ship's coming in. And just little things like that. AI, so we're doing a big commit online, brilliant. We need to look at NPCs in the foyer. Right, we need to put loads of them in the level. Why? Because there's going to be loads of them in the level on top of players, and you just need to test the performance. Last thing you want is them rubber banding, which is like, they were here, and now they're there, and now they're leaning on an invisible handrail. It's funny, it really is, at the same time. It's scratching your head of how to solve those issues, and if you can push the game to its limits, then it's going to be better at the end of it. So yeah, there's also things like new testing parameters and relaying stuff of, this is going into the build, there's loads of new AI, test them, push them, try and get in their way, see how you can grief them. You have store vendors and stuff like that, so it's knowing what you can do to push a game to its limits as a player. I'll have a bit of that, I'll have a bit of this. I'll pick up this item, I'll drop it, I'll throw it at this character, I'll try and balance it on their head, I'll run away. I'll go up to a vendor, I'll browse everything away, and now I'm going to run away again. And it's one of these which is like, if you don't complete the loops. Because as a designer, you can think of how your games will get played, and then when you give it to a complete stranger, you can be pleasantly surprised. So it's one of these which is just to be a lot more broad in how you do things. So on top of that, I await specialism. So it's a great way to grow in a dev role. If you want to work in art, you can work as a QA for the art team. You can be on the receiving end of the issues. And when you move into dev, maybe you can prevent a lot of them. Same with production as well. And it's kind of a good thing when you embed people. We've had a lot of people move from QA into development roles in that same kind of aspect. So yeah, I also used the duties from previous roles. So it was things like bug reporting, being diligent, sending the right emails, giving out clear, concise information for people in the company. It might make sense to you. If it's in a ream of text, not everyone's going to read it. There are so many people who get bogged down with walls of text versus just bullet point. Use a color scheme. Formatting is absolutely gets me when it's like, when I see something well formatted, I'm almost applauding at my screen. People are like, what are you doing, Steve? It's having a good day. So yeah, CIG, I'm in production now, and I just wanted to show you a few videos, give myself a rest, give your ears a rest of me, and just kind of show you what kind of goes around in the day-to-day. Preloaded this. So this is kind of like from the motion capture team.
So motion capture is just the body, like the head position, but it's not the facial, not the performance. So all the stuff that we're shooting on performance capture is all the performance in Squadron 42. So the dramatic scenes, people's dialogue, and so we capture their emotions and what they're saying and what's happening on their face to map it all onto their sort of digital alter egos inside the world of Squadron 42. And we'll be doing that here in the Imaginarium stage at Ealing Studios for the next 3 months.
My name is Ian Duncan and I'm playing the player. So everything's from my point of view, and all the interactions that every character has, it's with my character. Kind of cool and different, so I'm looking forward to the challenge.
I'm getting my markers on my head and my body. No, I'm getting markers on my body and a camera on my head.
Yes. We wear the cameras and the headgear so it captures the performance.
Regular every day at work.
We've got this helmet on our heads that actually films every little close-up.
I mean, you can't really get much closer than this. It's going to pick up every single feature of ours.
All those other many cameras and gizmos capture the physicality.
I don't know, 50, 60 or so cameras. I'm just making up a number there. I did mocap last time 5 years ago and it's already evolved.
I think I look pretty sexy. And that's why I'm here. Oh, thanks. Scan down, just to check. That's the money shot.
Because everyone looks very odd. Wearing all in one very suits that don't leave much to the imagination.
You feel very self-conscious, but the trick is obviously to lose that self-consciousness and just kind of be yourself within the space and play the character within the space.
A bit like being in a theatre workshop.
It's all in your mind.
Home to the famous Squadron 42.
Yeah, it's like make-believe.
Yeah, it's like being 5 again.
Yeah, it's like being 5 again.
Whoa!
Mental, physical training's been pretty intense. I sat and had a cup of tea this morning and then came here.
So you have to go through a series of 90 plus expressions ranging from frowning, smiling, looking up, looking down, left, right. And the combination of all those things mean that they can then control the way that you look digitally.
First time you do it, it can feel very weird. It's quite a test. I love it. I feel very at home here.
From what I gather, Chris is a bit of the sort of George Lucas of this stuff. Really putting you in the game in a way that we don't have right now, where you have emotional connections with characters.
In the old days when I did Wing Commander, I felt like we sort of advanced sort of cinematic storytelling in games back then, and I think our cast is something that you would have in a movie, definitely, in a way that you don't normally see in games, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. He's kind of the charming, famous one.
What took you guys so long? You almost missed all the fun.
I want you to hear this. Sit down.
We had Liam Cunningham this morning, who's playing Captain White. I think Bishop's going to be a great character. Gary's awesome to work with, and he's bringing a lot of nuances to it.
Some of you may asking why undertake such a thing. I can tell you in one word. Victory!
Kid, you better be on your way!
A little bit starstruck.
It's like an extra level of nerdy geek out.
EVA back to your ship.
Luke Skywalker.
We were going through a list of actresses that we thought would be believable as Gary's daughter. Gillian was my top choice. We'll handle it exactly the way you did on the X-Files. She's great, she's tough, she's awesome, she definitely holds her own. We got Harry Treadaway, who's amazing.
Like, we're getting drunk before we even start work, so it's a good day at work.
Oh, this is Space Whiskey. It's 5,000 euros. Yeah, single malt.
Just been a really joyous experience.
Yeah, I mean, working with all the A-listers was just amazing. The fact that I got to be in every single scene was a real honor.
Cast and Chris have done an unbelievably great job. It's going to kick other games in the ass.
The message to fans would be that thank you for enabling us to do something at this level. What we shot here was way beyond what initially I thought I would be able to do. So I know it's hard to wait, but trust me, it'll be something that I think you'll be glad that you supported. Thank you so much, guys.
It's been a pleasure.
I'm pretty excited to see it sort of come alive.
Can be a cracker. Yeah.
So yeah, that was a few years ago. with the dipping a toe in this kind of stuff, you realise what more you can do as a studio, which is don't compromise on an IRB experience. Listen to the backers on that side of things. What we learned on the persistent universe, which is currently still going, we knew exactly what else we could do with the tech as well, so it was kind of codependent. So yeah, that was just kind of what we're still shooting mocap as well, just to try and get these additional things, pickups for how we respond to the player. And I wanted to show you what the team I've been working with exclusively, which is the social design team and the gameplay story team, in how just little gameplay instances to have this narrative anticipation of how the player would play it to get the most out of it, rather than give you more opportunities to forget they're just NPCs.
Show us that. So this is Morrow, everyone's favourite engineer. So he's like the ship's gossip. You know, every time you stumble across this guy, he's gossiping about something. So at the start conversation, we have 2 interrupt points, which I spoke about before. That's breaking into a conversation. Then he turns his attention to you, and then we have, during the following conversation, we have 5 breakpoints. And that's a pause, resume, abandon points. So you can do either of those. And then we also have the performance based to the left and to the right. So you can attack this from any angle if you want.
That's cool.
Just to be fair to the character department, we should say that the character models in this are the basic versions prior to all the sort of lovely polish that they lavish. The environment.
Yeah, we always hate giving disclaimers, but things are always being pushed on. But yeah, I don't think they are the most up to date. I heard this video may have a little bit of length, but it shows the variety that we have, and although it may even be a little bit repetitive sometimes with the line that's there, again it shows those angles, it shows the timing and so on. So it's I think it's worth people seeing the variety that's there.
Yeah, it's a lengthy video. It's a bit of Groundhog Day in there, but that's the whole point of it. It shows all the different scenarios we've catered for. This
Cool.
is just for a single scene.
Yeah, the level of complexity that there has to be depending on approaches.
Awesome, let's watch it.
Yeah, yeah. There you go, guys. I'll just share screen.
The entire face completely rebuilt afterwards. Lieutenant! Congrats on the big first mission. Exciting stuff. Lieutenant, you alright? Right, where was I? It must be great to finally feel like a real pilot. And not that you weren't a real pilot before, but now you've actually done something without, well, blowing up. Never mind, I guess. Yeah, the entire face completely rebuilt afterwards. Apparently the lieutenant looked completely different before Vega. Lieutenant! Congrats on the big first mission. Exciting stuff. It must be great to finally feel like a real pilot. And not that you weren't a real pilot before, but now you've actually done something without, well, blowing up. Lieutenant, you alright? Right, where was I? Speaking of pilots, did you hear what happened to Ishitaka last year? So, we were posted out in some backwater system. Oh, I forget which one. Maybe next. Anyway, we decide to go out drinking at this dumper of a trade station. Real dump. Never mind, I guess. Yeah, the entire face completely rebuilt afterwards. Apparently the lieutenant looked completely different before Vega. Lieutenant! Congrats on the big first mission. Exciting stuff. It must be great to finally feel like a real pilot. And not that you weren't a real pilot before, but now you've actually done something without, well, blowing up. Speaking of pilots, did you hear what happened to Ishitaka last year? So, we were posted out in some backwater system. Oh, I forget which one. Maybe next. Anyway, we decide to go out drinking at this dumper of a trade station. A real dump. Lieutenant, you alright? Right, where was I? Ishitaka is completely ripped. I mean, she's totaled. Decides her face could do with a bit of an upgrade. Wakes up the next morning with a nose like the front of Freelancer. Never mind, I guess.
I'll do one more.
The entire face completely rebuilt afterwards. Apparently the Lieutenant looked completely different before Vega. Lieutenant! Congrats on the big first mission. Exciting stuff. It must be great to finally feel like a real pilot. And not that you weren't a real pilot before, but now you've actually done something without, well, blowing up. Speaking of pilots, did you hear what happened to Ishitaka last year? So, we were posted out in some backwater system. Oh, I forget which one. Maybe next. Anyway, we decide to go out drinking at this dumper of a trade station. A real dump. Ishitaka is completely ripped. I mean, she's totaled. Decides her face could do with a bit of an upgrade. Wakes up the next morning with a nose like the front of Freelancer. Lieutenant, you alright? Right, where was I? The dog said she couldn't fix it. Said she wouldn't fix something that isn't broken. Never mind, I guess.
I think we've put Eugene Morrow through enough already. But that's kind of how you can approach things from completely different angles, but it has to be natural. So turns to the player, telling the story, and then the breakout, and then as you can see the eyebrows, we're trying to work that out as well, which is moving through the emotions, and then like just constantly winding this guy up. And there's not just him as well, there's quite a few people, even down to if you just turn your back on them. And they'll get quite angry with the player now and again if you do it more consistently. And with that, we can shoot what we need, and then we think, well, actually, what if the player does this, what if the player does that? Right, shoot some more stuff, get it in, test it, because you're never always going to get it in the first time. And with that, the level of emotioneering in video games now you're seeing, that's just one instance, for example. Can anyone imagine designing that right now? Something to think about, though. You're not always going to be in the mind of the people who play your stuff, especially when you're doing narrative stuff. When it comes to emotioneering in games, it's not just narrative sequences and stuff. There's also the PU side of things. I just wanted to show you a bit quickly VoIP, which is it's based on your webcam. So it just kind of scans your face. And
in this video, we're looking at
this is online, it's on the server.
IP. We've got a phone, we've got a £20 cheap action camera, and then we've got a mirrorless camera, which is nice and fancy. So we're going to compare them, we're going to see which is the winner, and we're going to see what we can learn for you guys. Let's get into it. So here we have Droid Cam on my Pixel 3a. So it's a few years old smartphone. It's over Wi-Fi, and I can kind of tell you immediately that it feels a bit laggy. So as I'm moving my mouth, you then have got the calibration screen on the right and then the in-game screen. It doesn't feel that snappy. There seems to be an issue as well in terms of the camera on the phone is quite wide, so I'm not that close. My face isn't taking up much.
So just showing like on the different types of tech. So that's just.
And it seems as though it is the tracking
camera
will drop in and out. So if I turn away and then turn back from here,
where's you something a bit
immediately
better?
compared to the Droid Cam, compared to over the Wi-Fi.
Introducing Remarkable 2.
We've got to pay the bills.
Paper tablet. A revolutionary
phone webcam. This feels much better. So it's immediately snappier. If I turn away, it will immediately come back in, and actually, as I move my mouth, the response on the screen is good. Yeah, so this is pretty decent, really. I don't really know why you'd want to spend much more than this. So you can see here on the screen, it's only tracking at 25 FPS, but it's not really making any difference on it. That lets in lots and lots of light, and immediately it is really snappy. So I know I said the last one was quick, but the main difference between this one is this one, as you see over here, is capturing at 60 frames per second, and it feels real time. So yeah, my mouth movement is it just goes as I do it, and as I move my head, there's no sense of desync, good star citizen word. It doesn't feel there's any sense of desync between my actual movements and actually what I'm seeing on the screen, both in the calibration screen and on the actual face.
So yeah, that's animation team, bit of mocap scanning faces in, bit of technology is scanning your faces based off, cameras. And this can be you playing online in the server, turn on VoIP, talking to your friends literally. Something that kind of blew my mind is there's still a few things where you'll see the odd things like going to the one side of the face, and it's because it's not really your face and depends on the webcam and other factors that can impact it. But it's just a cool thing, which is emotioneering facial expressions that are actually yours in the game real time, playing on the server with other people. Right, back to the good stuff. So yeah, I'm the animation pillar producer at the minute. I'm overseeing quite a few teams, motion capture, tech animation, face animation, gameplay story animation, and also with the cinematics team currently, well, now anyway, as of recent. And that's just trying to get them all working at the same time, communicating, not just as a team, because the pipeline exists within there. You'll shoot something from mocap, your narrative team, what are we shooting? Mocap team, you need to process it. Facial animation team, right, we need the face animations to process. Audio team, that needs to sync with the lip sync. Gameplay story team, you need to take that content and work with it to get it working encompassed as a scene. Then it's like design team outside of animation, you need to put it in your level. And then design team will say, everything we've shot's great, but we do need a bit more of it because we need to wind up more NPCs, for example, and it can come full circle again. And obviously that takes time to process it, to making sure you're meeting a deadline. So yeah, that kind of covers a lot of it in terms of liaising with the different design teams as well, what's needed, scheduling quarterly as well, when do we need this done by, how feasible can we do it. It's a lot of content, quite a lot of content to get done in, say, a quarter. When it comes to giving bad news, some people don't like giving bad news. There's one core thing when it comes to game development is, how soon do you want to be disappointed? Do you want to be disappointed now? Or do you want to be disappointed later? I'd rather have bad news ahead of time. Other stuff like mentoring staff, helping people on board, on that side of things. I've had to be more a responsible adult on that side of things and mature a bit more, which is still eye-opening, but it's refreshing to actually help people out in the industry. Two people that have come in, Mike Woods and Eleanor Fox as well. Been absolutely brilliant coming in there and actually just helping coach people through stuff and then being hands-off, which is quite difficult. And obviously, like problem solving, creating new processes. Right, there's a problem here, and a lot of people, and you'll find this as well, you encounter, and maybe you fall into the trap yourself. You'll get bogged down by a problem, and you'll put so much energy into stressing about the problem, you could put it into the solution. How do I fix this? How do I prevent this? What can I do on my end to prevent this from happening again next time round? And that's where the big E comes, evaluation. That's why you do them on that side of things. So it's one of the stages of career progression, and this is my very basic chart, I guess, of how to get through there. So enrollment, and then there's graduation. There's a bit of a graph in between. So role research. Anyone in the room right now, does anyone know what they want to be in the industry yet? Hands up. That's good. Be undecided. It's always a good thing, man. Play the game. Yep. No. Good. Well, look about. Shop around. Just do a bit of window shopping. Gamesindustry.biz. Look around for game jobs. Find your favourite companies. Look for roles in there. So there's your role research. Practical research. Criteria for the role. What do you need to do to get that role? Start now. Fine-tune them skills. Be prepared. Batman it. So, yeah. Mimic the criterion project form. How do I demonstrate I have these skills? Well, I've got to practice first. I've got to get good at it. That's where your course comes in. That's where your coursework comes in, levels and things like that. So you mimic the criteria. You practice the skills. You harden your skills. You know what skills you need. Compile and display projects. I could show someone The Last of Us and say, oh, that was all me. Prove it. Oh, no. And then all of a sudden, you say, wait a second, I need to demonstrate I have these skills. They're investing in you. Everyone likes a sound investment. If you know someone can do the job, if they can work with other people, if they can communicate, that's the key when it comes to these things. Of you need to prepare. And when it comes to applying for multiple roles, you're going to stand a better chance. You're going to be a bit more confident in the job interview. Whatever they throw at you, you're going to be ready for them. And with all this, I put these 2 lines in there. So, yes, you can enrol in your job graduation applications. It can either be on a good scale, or if you can. Some people got through uni, and Cal vouch for this, and they didn't have strong portfolios. I was one of them, and you know, they had a harder time in the industry. I mean, temp contracts in QA roles. QA is a lot better respected, as it should do in this time, but back in the day, it wasn't so much. When a game was bad, where were the QA and all this? You know, I mean, I felt sorry for the Cyberpunk backlash. Whereas that, why didn't the QA find these issues? They probably did, and someone probably higher up said, "Please waive, get it out. We need to get it sold," and they've paid the price there. If a game's great, Kojima is God, you know, and the QA like still work, thanks, you know. People behind the curtain that made sure it came out stable, and it's very they should always have parades. QA for me is the most important job in the industry. So portfolio tips. I just thought I'd give some pointers for people on this side of things. So make it accessible via URL, your name, portfolio, at portfoliowebsite.com. Don't go over the top. People hate you. That's why tiny URL exists on your websites. Make it easy on the eye. Look at it. Does it look professional? Sometimes you don't want Michael Bay's version of a portfolio with explosions and memes. Memes are awesome, but there's a time and a place for them. Have a sensibly organised sitemap. Organise your content. Have your best work and your most recent skills at the top. There's no point in them scrolling down to find the content. People aren't going to work hard to see what you're capable of because you're in a sea of maybe 100 people that's applying for this job. Yeah, blog a little bit about the process. How did you do it? You know, even just your evaluations. Demonstrate your skills. They don't know if you can do this. You know you can do this, but it's not what you know, it's what they can believe in on that side of things. That makes sense. Have a sensible colour scheme and font. Anyone know the font? Hey, I'm not old too yet. Brilliant. Yeah, don't use Comic Sans, even out of irony, until you're a few years down the line and you're doing presentations to young, bright students. Make sure all of your links work, like I did earlier on the PowerPoint. Otherwise, I'd be Googling for it. And proofread your content. Make sure everything makes sense. It'll make people giggle a bit now and again, but it's one of these of, that could even be the fine margin between you and another promising candidate. Social media etiquette and NDA. If anyone can dial back to the earlier parts of it when I was talking about the sad face and the night shifts, that image costs someone their career in the industry. They don't work in there ever again. Read your NDA. Question yourself before posting stuff. You know, should I post this? No, don't. It's better to wind up your mates. Oh, what's this like? What's that like? You know, Watch Dogs something can't tell you, mate. What? Can't tell you? Oh, come on. Oh, I can't tell you. Oh, the great things we're doing that I can't tell you about. It's fun. I have more fun with it more than anything. We are doing really awesome things at SIG, and I can't talk about it, that side of things. And it's cool, you know. Everyone likes a bit of a troll. If you have to really criticise a game, if you really have to criticise one, be constructive, be professional. Don't call something SHIT, for example. Don't just say that I hate X or Y. There could be someone who's interviewing you. And guess what? Type your name. Who is this person? Oh, they've got a nice little blog. Oh my God, they're trashing me worse than Yahtzee did. Well, we'll move this promising person to one side because we've got 999 other students to go for. And it's professionalism. There's another thing online, social media etiquette, and I shouldn't really have to say this, but diversity. We're in 2022. In terms of hatred, things like that. I mean, people can grow and change as people, but educate yourself. Be a good person, and that should be the forefront of, I guess, humanity if we want to move forward on that side of things. Privacy settings. You might want some people to actually reach you that don't. Protect yourself as well. And we will move on to this image again. So I was running a night shift. Some guy went to the bathroom or the kitchen, I forget. and they took a picture of this dev kit on one of the programmers' desks. It was this new design Wii U controller that Nintendo was going to actually show at E3. It wasn't announced. You can imagine Nintendo caught wind. They came to TT, and yeah, as you can imagine, you can check it all online what happened of it. But the person doesn't work in the industry anymore. I still know of them, and they never got back into it. And it's one of these of it's trust, because people worked hard, even like designing this controller and getting it to work and fully functional, to get out for E3. You know, Nintendo, they really like to serve their fans and have to put on a good show, and it took a little bit away from it. And it's really sad because couldn't have happened to a nicer person as well. Even I felt bad about it. And if they'd have not known who it was, I would have lost my job because everyone on that shift would have been, gone in for a grilling. Bit of a sad story, but life moves on. But yeah, social media etiquette, very important, especially in this day and age. Interviews, relax. Genuinely, find methods to relax. You know exactly what calms you down before something like that. And remember, the worst thing people can say is no, and they don't say that there on the day. Take your time. If you want to pace yourself, if you haven't got the answer straight away, they ask you a question, you do this. I'm thinking, it's one of these, buy yourself some time. They're not sat there with an egg timer. If they are, then you probably shouldn't work there because they're not a good bunch of people. Rehearse your CV. You've said all of these great boast-worthy things. Go through it. Rehearse it. They're going to ask you, it says you're really good at Unreal. Yes, I am. Elaborate. Less is not always more. Unless you want to go on and tell them your life story, be applicable. Get ready for certain questions. Research the role criteria. You've applied for this job. They're going to ask you of certain key beats of the job. Can you do this? Can you do that? Yes. Give examples. Just show that you're the safest bet that they could possibly have. Because they're not thinking of employing you short term. It's an investment, especially in a junior role. Can this person grow in our company? Can they be part of our company ethos, our office culture? It's a family. It really is. I know these people. I've seen people get married and the dev team go to the wedding and stuff like that. And they've been together for like 10 to 15 years. Research interview questions. I've interviewed a few people, and I was not the expert to start with. So I googled best questions to ask people when you're interviewing someone. You might meet the same place. You might find the same questions. If they're already coming your way and you know they're coming, you're prepared. You can matrix dodge it. Well, not dodge the question like a politician, but actually be ready for the ammunition. You've got key beats. You're rehearsed. You're prepared. Then rehearse your answers. Do it in the mirror if you have to. Break it down. Have questions prepared as well, and good ones. I had one that didn't hit very hard after doing a very good interview, and I asked if you were a DC superhero, who would be your ideal villain, and someone just said pass, and I was like, I just got gut punched, I got infinity gauntleted. So yeah, ask about the company, show a bit of knowledge about the company, who founded it, what they posting online recently, any new releases and stuff like that. It all adds up. They're extra points to score. If this was a game, you want to get up your counts and up your numbers. These are little extras to do there. You're in the industry. Likely roles from my experience anyway. A QA. You'll always find QA roles on that side of things. The work hours can vary. They're better now, and pay is scaled up. You get to see the product at the end of the pipeline. So the hours might be long. You might get to see it at the end of the pipeline, and then knowing how to, nice tune, on that side of things, which is, this is how it comes at the end of this process. And when you move into production, how can I remove these steps? How can I avoid this? Be strategic. Junior developer, you might go in as a junior, and with that you learn from a lot of experienced people. People have been there for years. People have been seasoned in the industry. You've seen empires crumble in the games industry and then move to other companies. Not everyone, but they're well prepared. And if you can learn a lesson from them in 3 months that took them 3 years, brilliant. Workloads and pressure can vary between companies. Some like to roll it downhill to the junior person and sink or swim. Again, not all companies, just things I've heard of. I'm old enough to meet enough people in the industry to have good and bad stories. Indie, do it by yourself. Good luck, and seriously, if you can make it on your own, I tip my hat to you, and you're welcome to your throne on that side of things. I'm serious. I have so much respect for people doing it indie. You can make whatever you like. You're your own boss. You have bills to pay. Simple as that. You do have bills to pay. The tax man isn't going to go, this game looks banging, I'll come back. You know, that'd be nice. That would be nice. It's a really good mechanic that I think it's got a lot of potential. You do have bills to pay. And it's a lot of hard work, and it might even destroy what you love with video games, trying to separate enjoying them and making them. But that also applies to other roles as well. So yeah, there's a summary. Aim, what job do you want to do? Plan, how am I going to get there? Work, going to do that stuff to get there. Compile your work, your portfolios, self-evaluation, selling yourself, CVs. Achieve, get the role. And then when you get the role in the company, you start again. What position do I want in this company 2 years? It's not working out here. How do I get another job at another company? Failing to plan is planning to fail, Benjamin Franklin. Apparently it comes from him. I'm not very good in my American politics, or history. But yeah, the words is the same. I failed to plan. And I went back home for like 3 years. And yeah, QA roles in between. And yeah, living back with the parents after having that great law freedom of uni. So yeah, questions? Brilliant. Carl, you want to do the questions or just pick people out?
I was going to say, whoa. Do not even think about speaking without a microphone. It is.
Thank you all for listening as well. It's a great crowd with that.
A bold strategy for Confetti to give me a microphone so soon after Tuesday, but we'll go through. Steve has got prizes for everyone who asks him questions.
It's all the same.
We've got a fair amount of time, so just make sure that you get the microphone before you begin speaking, and we're all good. Clover, we're going to start with you.
When you were talking about like leaks earlier with the Wii U thing, in like certain companies, with certain developers, are leaks a thing that they want to happen? Like, do they get people to do leaks on purpose to kind of build up hype for the game?
Someone should be working in marketing right now. It does happen.
Yeah.
It definitely does happen. It's leaked. It's taboo. You should imagine if I had this giant box and said, inside that box is one of the greatest secrets of the games industry that you guys don't want to know. And you open it, and it's a new game that's coming out soon. You're gonna be more invested to get it. It's taboo. If I said there's a new game and they want to release, you'd still be keen to see it, but that little allure of I shouldn't be having this, Yeah, good question.
Would going into QA and would you be able to make that like a career path to start growing off of that?
Yes, definitely, yeah.
As in staying in QA and starting to become a lead of it?
Yeah, I've seen people now in our company especially, they've just bought their first house. QA management, there's specialist QAs, principal QAs, lead QAs. It's not QAs at the bottom and then you get out of QA. I came from QA and a lot of people in the industry have into these roles, and I think they've raised the bar for it, which is to say, this is why you respect QA. As I say, just because it was bad for you, it shouldn't be bad for everyone on that side of things. But yeah, definitely is. Thank you. I've got loads, by the way.
In QA, how do you go about finding bugs and stuff that need fixing?
How do I go about it? First of all, it's to play the game. So run into it. How different ways can you play the game? And then, wait a minute, how did that happen? Prove it. Learning how to be clear and concise of how you made that happen. Think about what the perfect way is to go about a mission. For example, say if you, I don't know, GTA or Cyberpunk, you had a mission and you put the map marker in there and it gave you the perfect route to go. Don't go that route. Take a different route. Maybe the AI and the car path finding is most likely going to take this route, right? Take some of the cars off the road. There's more than one way to play the games and stuff like that. So just look about it from the outside. Play missions different ways. Use different weapons. Think outside the box. Kobayashi Maru it. Like, what happens if I walk in there and just pop off loads of grenades? Oh, right, loads of civilians died and the police aren't after me. Awesome, just things like that. So yeah, just think outside the box, I'd say.
Would it be better for us to try and be getting into the industry now, since most of us are living at home and not having to deal with budgeting or bills?
I mean, there's one thing you can look into on that side of things. If you find the right role and you're right for the role, it's always good to. I'd say it's always good to finish a qualification because it's good for the CV. But if you have a company that's looking to invest in you, yeah, definitely. If you can find the right side of things, is something you're looking into at all, or maybe, or cards close to the chest? But yeah, it's something that it's is it the right fit for you as well. And I think one bonus thing as well for studying is your peers. I went uni with Kyle, and it's probably the only reason I'm here. A lot of people, like Lee's at Rockstar, Richard Sharp is at Deep Silver. I went to school with these people as well. So yeah, it depends. Networking is very important as well. But if you can do that as well and you keep, then yeah, more power to you, man.
Yeah, with QA and everything.
Oh, well, there we go.
With QA and everything, it's mostly temporary contracts and just in the game industry, isn't it? So, how do you find yourself getting into different companies, and well, how hard can it be in between jobs?
I mean, first and foremost, it's if you know you're about to leave a job or your contract's going to end, apply. Plan ahead. Quite a lot more companies now in the industry, they're realising the retention of their QA is very, very important, and they're getting better at it. But for me, it's learn to hustle. If you know that if they're playing their cards close to the chest 2 months before the contract ends, you haven't heard anything, apply other places, play the game.
One of the things I struggle with when creating games is coding systems that last well in the long term. I may undercode something and then have to go back to refactor it. So my question would be, how do you guys plan ahead to determine how this system should work? If that makes sense.
Looking into sustainable tech, because if you look at a lot of games, even like they're looking for sequels as well, it's something that's going to be future-proof. No one can. I don't need the microphone. I'm loud anyway. You can't always predict the future from those side of things. But it's something of, you can look at trends of how long engines have lasted to know what's more sustainable. And when it comes to optimization of your code, how versatile is it as well on that things?
Technicians have decided you do need a microphone, Mr. Austin.
Well, but just shout a bit more.
So, we do also have people joining us remotely who would not fit in this room. So I'm just going to give you a couple of questions from them real quick, then we'll come back to you guys. It's such a shame we don't have the camera to watch that.
Right. Just a couple.
Our first question from Will Stacey. What is the best favorite product that you have worked on, whether it was tested or directly made?
Oh. Right, Will, looking at the cameras, right, which one? I've always wanted to do that. For me, probably Lego City on the Wii U. It was like a brainchild of the company. It was a brand new IP. It wasn't Marvel or anything like that. And a lot of people put their own heart and soul into it as well, especially the narrative writers as well. So I'd probably say that for me. And also, it was the first time I got hands on a product from, I guess, more leadership side of things from QA. And it'll stick with me for the rest of my life. Are you one of these?
Yeah. We'll get it to him, it'll be fine. And our second question from the chat is from Michael. You mentioned that obviously your team breaking their NDA could also have complications for you. Is that punishments that are often levied against team members and team leaders?
Not really, no. We're not fully Orwellian yet on that side of things. It was something that we were very worried about, put it that way. We probably weren't going to get tortured until who it was. There's some things such as IPs and social media accounts are quite tied to people on this side of things. You can't catch everyone online, but when it comes to money of that magnitude, of that importance, then they will find those people. So I wouldn't worry too much. Just look after yourself on that side of things and advise people consultation-wise to say that's not a good idea. If your friends put something up, try and help them catch it on that side of things. Be an ally.
Okay. One more from chat and we'll come back to the room. It's from Reese. Have there been any problems for you personally during the pandemic? How has that been for communication and for your morale?
Well, first of all, I ate too much cheese and fast food on that side of things. You don't realise how much on your commute on that front. So I think for me, I enjoyed the commute. I like to go in the office. To my brain, it's like a sitcom sometimes. It's different people you see about the place. So it was a bit alienating in parts. Some people preferred it. It was nice to have. Trains are my mortal enemy when it comes to that side of things and delayed. But overall, I think it was probably more the social side of things and toilet paper, let's face it, eventually at the start of it. Communication-wise, we communicate from different companies. We have a studio in Derby, we have a studio in Wilmslow, we have a studio in LA, Austin, Texas, Frankfurt. So we're quite used to communicating anyway by those means. So it didn't hit us that much. And company sent me a sweet PC to work from home as well, which was always good. And then the Steam sale hits. But yeah, that's probably what's impacted me the most is the social side of things. Right.
It would be right at the front, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, there's 3 as well for the rooms. Kyle, there's 3 for the rooms.
If you eventually want to go into like indie or independent, would you still recommend going into QA to get knowledge of bigger businesses and how the workflow goes, even for smaller teams maybe?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, healthy competition on that side of things. You could pay bills. The only thing is, if you're working actively on a game and also developing on the side, then you need to let your company know, or they might come and try and take some of that Skrilla. So let them know earlier. Yeah, there's people at the back who've had their hands up a few times.
You've said that before that you should take qualifications in the university to get into a good job. Could you recommend any courses to take to get into QA?
Not for courses for QA, surprisingly. A lot of QA is, I'd say, experience-based. So get yourself on betas and things like that, looking into bug report systems. There's always good side of things on there. One thing I did get was design, because you dip a toe in a lot of different disciplines. So therefore, you kind of know what it takes to work to get them in the game, or how they function in the game, to understand how to break them, if that makes sense. There's a lot of times, how did I do that? Always comes to mind. Or if I export a texture wrong, or I wrap a model incorrectly, I abused mesh smooth, and then all of a sudden it's come out like Event Horizon. So there's no real ways with QA. It's more, I guess it's more experience and showing an enthusiasm of knowing games in terms of versatility as a player, I'd say. Right, that's my steps done for the day. Right, next.
So when you said that you did specialization in AI for your QA testing, was that like opening you up to other AI things like your animation, or did you have to go chase different sort of coding opportunities on the animation?
I guess, well, on mine it's production, so it's more management side of things. The only reason I identified AI was there was a lack of it focus-wise at the time, and it was me as a player what I'd want to see. With that, you could use that as well as a springboard. Even Fran was asking me, do you want to be an AI programmer? I was like, no, because code makes me a headache a lot. But a lot of dev opportunities, as I said, people who have become testing the ships become ship or technical artists. That's why I sidestepped as well, because I wanted to be in production, and I realised that what I'd built for the position had been a good springboard for people to use that to get into AI. And AI programmers are few and far between, especially great ones, so I'd encourage it to anyone who's interested. I should have just fetched 2 that way. I am listening.
Oh, okay. Do you have any advice for while QA testing to be like more of an asset or to make yourself stand out more?
So I was drinking that, I missed that.
I'll say it again. It's all right. Do you have any advice for like to make yourself stand out more or be more of an asset for the company? Like while QA testing?
About QA testing to be more of an asset, I guess it's your bug reporting. How did you do it? Assume, even if the dumbest person in the world has never picked up a game before, even boot the title, a lot of people just like log into the game. It could be something you did in the menu, for example. Clear, concise issues, repeat steps to reproduce, how many times you've done it. So rate of reproduction, 3 and 5. I actually did it 10 times with this recipe. If you can tell them, if you do this exactly and this will happen, they'll love you, because developers, time's money.
So when doing QA and picking your specialisation, is there like the freedom to switch your specialisation? Is it something that might be quite encouraged depending on like how experienced you are?
In my opinion, it's whatever you are happy doing. Companies want you to be happy. So if you tried AI specialisation for QA and it didn't work, intellectual at the outside of things, an opening will come up, and you can transfer your specialisation just from one focus to the other. You'll still have the skill sets, bug reporting, merging files, using Perforce and things like that. And a lot of teams will be saying, if you're really diligent in what you do, they'll want you. This person's experienced in that side of things.
What would you say is the single best thing to do or say in an interview to leave a positive impression?
I'd say doing is pacing yourself. Don't be rushed by a situation on that side of things. Look them in the eye, be honest. I hand gesture a lot and I say a lot. That's fine. Genuinely, I think it's not rehearsed then, so be real. The most important thing I'd say is have the role reversed. The role reversed? Yeah, I'm going to interview you. No, the role researched, on that side of things, and have all of those key points of the criteria. Well, how do you fit that? How do you fit this? How do you fit that? They're going to ask, and if not, you've got ammo to use in that interview. So I'd say that side of things. Not everyone's going to be confident. I'm not always I originally wasn't one of the most confident speakers. Carl saw one of my first presentations. So it's just be well rehearsed, make sure you've got content to say, and it's applicable to the role. And pace yourself.
There is absolutely an aspect of you being so good a presenter now that is, if you didn't, you were going to have to listen to me for years and years and years.
So, from your whole time in the industry and as a student, do you have any regrets, things that you want to warn us against or proper encourage us to do?
Be better prepared. Always be better prepared. If you're graduating soon, say you've got 3 months beforehand, get your portfolio together ahead of time. Apply for those jobs. Remember, the worst thing they can say is no. Reach out to developers. There's always development mixers, events and things like that where you can speak to people from the industry. I'd say that my regret was being a poor student in preparation. I thought, because I had the piece of paper, go out of uni, and everyone would be queuing up like, "Whoa, Steve, go!" The limo knocks the trash cans over, and they open the doors, and it doesn't happen. But somewhere deep down, I probably thought that, that would have happened, but some people think they're just going to be lucky, and it doesn't always happen. But I'd say that was my regrets, is being ill-prepared outside.
How versatile, with QA testing, how versatile of a jumping off point would that be? So if you wanted to do something wildly different in your career in the industry, would you say that QA testing is a great sort of way to get into that if you want to do something wildly different, or is there another pathway you'd recommend?
It depends what you want to be. If you're a really good programmer already, then go in for junior roles on that side of things. There's internships as well. Always ask the company, reach out. They have social media accounts now. They look great when they're bringing through interns. They'll boast about it. It depends. If you want a job in QA, if it's something you fancy, if the role that you want isn't available, you still want to work at the company, QA is always a good thing as well.
Was there any shock when going from education to QA in the industry? And if there was, what would you say is the best way to get through the shock and get acclimated to the industry?
I think your classroom is always a very good thing to have, showing up on that side of things. If you can be conditioned to show up and have 100% attendance and treat your course like you'd be getting paid, it's always going to be a good thing, because the office environment's quite similar to a games course. Just there's more health and safety awareness, which is cans of Monster stacking up doesn't happen. So I'd say that you know, acclimate yourself to just a more of a working environment. I started at the Signosis building after a major leak, so you were literally getting patted down by security, and that's never ever happened at any other company, and I think they cracked down on it. But yeah, be prepared on that side of things.
In QA testing, you mentioned that one of the Lego games was for a different console. How different is QA testing for different devices or consoles?
Very different. A lot of them have their own tools for debugging on that side of things. Dev kits, obviously, when they have different developer modes. When we're going between like the PS4 and the Xbox One, it's last generation. That's how old I feel. It's just one of these where you have to sometimes you have to plug the dev kits up to your PC, run Visual Studio. They'll still speak in that same way, but when it comes to firmware, it might differentiate of how you actually get those crash dumps from QA. As I say, it's been a while since I've been in QA on that side of things, but that's where we went from on that front. So if you can even look at, I think 360s now, you can pretty much get developer mode, and that you can actually do indie games on them now. It's free developer. I think it's free to get them into a dev kit. I think Matt Phillips put it out there on Twitter. Just get some experience in putting something in developer mode. You can pick them up cheap, and that could be a nice little experience side of things of making and also testing.
Matt, of course, would be a great example, given what he's arguably more famous for.
Yeah, just a quick one. Matt actually made his own Mega Drive game like 2 years ago, down to the cartridge.
How do you reproduce a 1 in a trillionth chance bug?
You can try your best on that side of things. You can give them all of the crash dumps, all of the data you have for encountering it. Because if you can't reproduce it and stuff like that, it's not to say you and 1,000 people, there's quite a lot of players in Star Citizen, that someone might encounter it. And it's something you've got to look into. It'll be a case of a programmer doing a deep dive and looking through the code. We try and avoid that to happen as much as possible. That's why I encourage repro steps, but they do happen. They do get found. It's just there's more labour involved to try and do it.
How do you manage your time?
Poorly. Sorry, who was that? Who was that? Sorry. Who asked? Sorry, I'll answer the question properly. You mean like free time as well, or just time in work?
Work-home life.
I try to work 9 to 5. I try to work my 40 hours. We need to get rid of this, I'd say, toxic culture of people. I work 50 hours this week. I work till 3 in the morning. Why? Why? You're just making other people feel bad or worried. It's like some people can work poorly for 12 hours. That someone can work efficiently in 8. So remember, life's for living. Life's, you work so you can live. You don't live so you can work. And if you can do both, brilliant. I know a friend who codes all day and then goes to work on his game. That's what makes him happy, and sometimes he's not as happy. And when you take him for a walk, not as a dog, but go for a walk out in the park and stuff like that. You go for a walk by the river, a bit of nature, a bit of exercise, clears the mind, and sometimes you can get short-sighted for that stuff. So always make time for yourself. Treat yourself. Friday takeaways, something like that. Play some games. Play different games, film, cinema. Link up with your classmates.
That definitely wasn't me. That's still not me, right?
Who's asking?
this image, what is it from? And
That's from Persistent Universe Star Citizen. So
Okay.
yeah, we're now live on. I think it's we'll have to say it. We're live on 3.16. So, yeah, Steve Austin. Yeah, 3.16's out now on that side of things. So yeah, you could play that. That's where it's from.
how difficult would it be to try and render a situation like the one shown in this shot in an engine itself? And did you guys just do this by just setting up everything in the game itself and then running it? Or did you just make this manually with all the materials you have?
Oh, that's from in-game. We have matinee cameras, and it was just someone playing. We had like a free camera just setting about the place. And yeah, we just get the marketing team to basically take the best images we found from playthroughs.
Okay.
Yeah. You already got a figure, haven't you? Yeah.
It is basically 5 o'clock, so we will make this the last question.
What would you say is the single best thing you could put in a portfolio?
I think probably is the most recent work, a nice little show reel. The best of it, you know, your best bits. If you can consolidate it down to 5 minutes of, the best work you've done, and then that'll almost encourage them to move on to other things. That's probably the best thing you can put on there. Bite-sized information, easy access, and then if they want to know how you did it, maybe underneath the video, you could do a timestamp from 0 seconds to 30 seconds, this piece, and then maybe a paragraph underneath each, so they can scroll afterwards. So was that the last question there?
That was absolutely the last question.
Sorry.
Guys, if you just want to thank our guest for travelling all the way from sunny Manchester to spend time with you. It's always the worst photos as well.
I've got figures left as well.
Claire, will you please open the door so people can leave?
Anyone else want a figure?
Do not take photos of this slide.